And where the strength comes in that I'm talking about is being able to one, recognize that you might be a little drained. And then to your point, figure out what the best possible thing I can do today.
If you think being a dad is filled with rewards, challenges, or headaches, and you keep pushing forward because you know this is the most important job you're ever going to do, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Dad's All In podcast. Welcome to the Dad's All In podcast. I hope you're doing great. I hope your family is well. I'm just glad you're here, my friend. Today, I've got a special guest. I've got Oscar Pena on with me, and he is a dad of 3. He's active military, and he's the host of the Daughter podcast, which I would highly suggest you check out. Oscar, thank you for jumping on with me, man.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate you so much.
So, going back a few months now, I've gotten a few things sent my way from dads who've struggled with just the thoughts and maybe it's guilt of not being as able to be as present in their kids' lives. And one of the reasons was military, right? And so you're military, maybe you're gone for a stretch and you're home for a bit. And then there's someone else reached out that was law enforcement. And then there's fathers who are just extremely busy with work and things in their lives,
Yeah.
and they feel guilty about it. And I want to dive into all of that. But I first want to start here. I know that your I guess we'll call them your core principles
Mhm.
are strength, being mindful, and being present. Do you want to kind of dive into that for the audience a little bit?
Yeah, Kyle, I started a podcast because I couldn't figure out how to shorten the learning curve,
Hmm.
right? And all of us are there. All dads out there, I'm sure, like, yeah, I can't learn fast enough to do what I want to do with my kids,
Yep.
right? As I started to explore that, I realized that the 3 things I really wanted to do better for my daughters was to become stronger, become more mindful, and to be more present with them. And we can dive into what each one of those means, but it was really a way for me to zero in the things that were going to encapsulate everything that I would want to give them before I leave the earth, right?
Hmm.
Um, so the strength thing we talked about, man, yes, it is important for me to be physically strong, and I think all dads should be able to do that, especially your daughters. At a bare minimum, that boy on the door knocking should be able to see that you look pretty strong. That's my opinion. But also, man, like we all come from different backgrounds with different baggage, with different things. And in ensuring that we are emotionally strong, mentally strong, um, are really important because you and I were talking before you hit record. Like, I don't know about you guys, but my daughters have tested every angle of my brain and every angle of my strength. And that's where that strong thing comes from, man. So wanted to be strong in all facets of life, and then with that is the mindfulness of how are they perceiving me when I say something. How am I coming across to them? Are the right words being said to get the right outcome? That's something that has been an extreme learning curve, right? Because we can come in, be an authoritarian, or maybe not try to be an authoritarian and say something, but come across as one, and although you might get a result up front, it doesn't drive for a long-term result. And so how are they perceiving us? How do they see us when we get home from work and we're exhausted and we are almost showing them that we're going to give them what's left over in the tank instead of the other way around? Like they're seeing that, they're feeling that. So perception around my kids is important, and what they're seeing and hearing and feeling from me is important. So being mindful of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately, presence. It is beyond easy in this day and age to not be present.
Mm-hmm.
Everything wants our attention.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. And in my situation, I found myself physically present, but not very present early on as a father because I didn't know how to do the father thing. And then I didn't know how to father a daughter. And it was almost overwhelming to think about. So I found myself mentally in other places, instead of being where I was.
Yeah.
And so that's where those 3 come from. And just, again, the podcast and what I do in my work is selfish because I want to learn. I want to get better. I want to shorten my curve. But the reason we record it and we put it out and give it to the dads out there is that if I can help one dad, just one dad, with something that we put out, something a guest said, something that I said, just a reminder. Like if we can help just that one dad, I think I've done something good in the world. And so there's plenty of crap in the world. I'm just trying to put a little good in it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that about you, and I also appreciate your philosophy of just trying to grow. I always
Yep,
say, as dads, we're trying to fail forward because we're always going to screw up on things. It's just how it
absolutely.
is, right? But can we learn from those mistakes and try to get a little bit better and a little bit better? And in the end, you hope to be the best that you can be, but you know you're never going to be perfect. So you just keep growing. You should keep
Right.
growing, which I appreciate. I like your thoughts about strength as well. I always say a father, the packaging of a father can look different. It's flexible. Families are
Hmm.
flexible on how they approach certain things. But one thing that's important is trying to show some kind of internal strength for your kids. That is definitely an important characteristic in a dad.
Right.
And I say that also because one of the things that a lot of dads struggle with is like regulating their emotions. And so when things are going awry, and they absolutely will, that's part
Yep.
of the gig, right?
Yep.
Eventually, whether it's newborns or you got teenagers, sooner or later things go off the rails.
Right.
Can you be calm in those moments and try to be as clear-headed as possible? And again, that takes a lot of work and a
It
lot of
does.
failing and a lot of learning. So I love your core principles, man. Hey, I want to dive into a bit of your service. And first of all, thank you for your service and serving in the military, and also thank you to your family. And I always say, and I shared this with you before we recorded, is that I have a soft spot for those who serve because of my family members who have served, but I also have a soft spot for the families of those who served. And I want to dive into a little bit of that because they are also making an amazing sacrifice. So, you want to just dive into a little bit of how you approach things as somebody who's active military?
Yeah, man. It's an interesting conversation, really. There's a lot of angles to it, and a lot of people have different jobs, and some many harder than mine, and more exclusive than mine, if you will, as far as how much it takes them away from home and those kinds of things. Um, but I'll start with the families, right? One of the reasons I know for a fact for me that I focus so much on presence is because I was not present early on as a father with my daughter, my oldest daughter. It's a tough thing to be in the military for the families, right? I mentioned this. I mentioned to you this before we hit record. Um, my wife has become a master of all things. I mean, she is not only the rock of the house and what drives our home, um, what my kids are always relying on because she's the consistent, person. Um, but then has to adjust all the time. Literally, I think we're on our. I want to say it's our ninth move. Don't quote me on that. I couldn't do public math, but it's a thing that military families go through that many others don't. Not all. We know that some job can take you from where you're at now to another place. We get that. Um, it's just more prevalent in the military community.
Yep.
And I know for me, a lot of that drives guilt, right? Guilt for my family, guilt for having to relocate them and restart them in a new location, knowing that we're probably restarting just to only restart again. And that drives a lot of decision making and things that we do as a family. But it is something difficult that that I have big sympathy for. As the military member, I'm qualified for a job. So when I get moved, I'm gonna also do that job, just at a different location. Odds are I probably know someone there that I worked with before, and that transition, I think it's easier on the job side, and it becomes very difficult on the family side
Mm.
because that is really where the difficulty hits is ensuring that I do whatever I can to ease that transition for my family. And then comes, having to be gone. And again, this is not inclusive to military. We talked about it.
Yep.
LEOs are out. Sorry, law enforcement officers. You got, other industries like truck driving, and I mean, there's all these other things. So I stay in my lane, brother. Right? Like we talked about this. I have a podcast about daughters, being a father of daughters, because that's literally my lane. Three daughters, and that's where I stay. Um, and I say that because all of this stuff is not inclusive to just military or just fathers or daughters.
Yeah.
But those are my lanes. And having been gone a lot from my kids is a thing that started to drive the word and the action of presence, and realizing that even when I was home, I find myself not present for whatever reason. I'm thinking of whatever I have to do at work. I'm thinking of what the garage has to get done because that's one of the duties, right? I'm also thinking of, maybe I'm not thinking anything. I'm on a stinking phone.
Yep.
And how many times do we get stuck on that?
Yep.
And what my work with fathers has really helped me to do is to check myself and to ensure that, one, I'm not a hypocrite. Or let me rephrase that I try not to be a hypocrite. Again, no one's perfect,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And one thing that I'd like to mention to all the dads out there when they hear me is, dude, I'm in the trenches with you. I'm not speaking from a pulpit.
Hmm.
It's dirty down here. So
Yep.
I'm just giving you the dirt. That's all I'm doing. Um, but yeah, just realizing, man, like we need to do better with presence because everything wants to take our attention.
Yep.
It is very easy not to be present nowadays. You can easily lose yourself in slap fight videos
Yes.
and whatever, right?
No
Like you
kidding.
can, yeah, you can lose yourself in these things before you know it, man. I've done this. Like you look up, you're like, it's been an hour.
There goes an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gone. So just ensuring, like, how do I, excuse me, questioning, how do I become more present? What do I need to work on to do that? And ultimately, what I figured out is, it just like anything else, it's a intentional practice,
Hmm.
and that is the goal, especially for me to talk to uh, other military dads to be like, hey, man, you've got a job to do. It takes you away from home. Uh, you can't be present. But when you are present, let's make that quality real good,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I have a small group of military dads I talk to, and that's what we focus on. How do we make this? How do we make ourselves better at being present, right? Again, nothing's perfect. Nothing's gonna be perfect, and we're all human, and we all get distracted by that YouTube button that we have on our phones and whatever, right? But that's a key thing. When I think about military members, male and female, when I think about LEOs, when I think about people that have to be away from home, my first thought is, how do we help y'all or help ourselves be better at being present when we are home? And I think Simon Sinek said it in one of his books. Like, the data shows that intentional, actual presence and high quality presence is better for your kids than physical presence with no high quality.
Correct.
And that's what I try to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's well said. It's, I often say, you know, you have your kind of pillars and mine are very similar, right? Like I say, be active dad, be a supportive dad, be present, and be a role model. Uh,
Right.
but when we talk about like being an active dad and being a present dad, it really comes with an asterisk, and that's like be as active and present as you can
Right. Yeah.
given your situation. Like if you are military and you know you're going to be gone for a stretch, my cousin is an amazing human, and he has this odd role in the military where I shouldn't say odd, there's others that have it. He's gone for months, and then he's
Hmm.
home for a while. And
Hmm.
so the thing to focus on is looking at those moments you have and making the most of them. It's like you
Yeah.
said, there's so many distractions in the world that can take your focus away from what your main role is in your number one job, and that's being a
Hmm.
dad. And it's too easy to get kind of pulled away from those important things that you do. So I
Yeah.
agree with you 100%. Maximize the time you have that's available for you.
Right.
Try not to beat yourself up. I'm not military, but I can imagine, being away from your family is heart-wrenching and probably guilt stricken, and
Yep.
just because you can't be there. Am I right about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely a, I would venture to say, and of course, I don't speak for everybody, right? But I would venture to say that there's a level of guilt that comes along with the job. And
Yeah.
it's not just military, but in the military, we just get it a lot because we're gone a lot.
Yeah.
It's crazy because that drives decisions when you come back, right? So it's like I found myself at times like buying things extra just to like fulfill that. And it's,
Right. Right.
dude, let's face it, kids, most kids like at certain ages, they just need a box to play with. Like they don't need some
It's
major
true.
thing.
It's true.
So who are we buying that thing for? Probably our own dang guilt, right? Like
Yep, that's
it's just like
it.
you're trying to do that.
That's it.
Um,
That
but
is that is something so common that I know divorced dads will talk about too.
right,
I only
yes,
get my kids every other weekend, so I'm going to like just do whatever I can to just
yeah,
unload everything onto them. Like that's so
yeah,
common. Yeah.
yeah. You're absolutely right, and that's another community that we didn't mention here. But I have several friends that have that situation where they have their kids every so often. In fact, my last guest, Dan, uh, from last week's episode, is a divorced dad, and he talks exactly about that. He's like, dude, be happy with the time that you have, put it into them, and be intentional what you're doing.
Right.
And that's really what it is, right? What's interesting though is something that you mentioned or that triggered a thought. It takes the strength, and what I'm talking about is the mental and emotional strength to be present. And this is important because there's a lot of pressure on dads out there to be present. We got you got to be present, right? Also, go out and make some cash because you got to pay the bills and do the things. And that's not all just dads. I know moms do that too. Just bear
Yep.
with me here.
Yep.
We can go and do that, military or not, get smoked doing it, right? You're tired, you get home, and then we give what's left over. And where the strength comes in that I'm talking about is being able to one recognize that you might be a little drained, and then to your point, figure out what the best possible thing I can do today to give to my kids. Not sorry, not thing, but when we're talking about giving them the best possible presence that I can today, right? So even though you hear all this like, hey, be present. If you're not present, you're a deadbeat dad, like whatever. That's not what we're not saying that. And I'm literally having to do this more and more lately where I would come home and I'm like, all right, I can feel my meter here, right? I don't want to give them the last bit of the empty tank. I want to give them as much as I can. So let me start from here and do as best as I can today. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so that's I think the strength to be able to know that and the mindfulness to be able to say, dude, I'm pretty smoked today,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
To be able to come home and tell your wife, hey, listen, I'm kind of tired. Like, I want to do this with the kids. Do you need anything from me? No. Okay, let me fix myself for a second. I'll be right back. Like
Yeah.
being able to do that, because if we don't, and 100% guilty of it, you don't, you come in and you have this pressure of being present and being with the kid, and all of a sudden something your tank goes completely empty, and now you're overreacting to something. You're raising your voice. Your patience is worn. Like so, even though I wanted to come in and be present and best that I could, I didn't take a check on what I was actually like when I got home, right? And
Yeah.
now instead
Yep.
of instead of bringing positive presence to them, I'm losing my patience. I'm not really present because I can't even pay attention. And if you have an 8-year-old or 7-year-old or 9-year-old, they can talk for literal hour
Oh,
without
absolutely.
stopping,
Especially
right?
girls.
Right. And so, but if you're not careful with that, if you're not present, excuse me, if you're not mindful enough to figure that out, then you're not going to be able to be present. So the emotional and mental strength you need to just start figuring these things out, that's so important. And that all is given to ourselves by ourselves when we take care of ourselves, right? When
Yeah.
you're doing your workout, when you're having that time to actually, and a lot of people talk about it, and that's what I try to do nighttime. Once the girls are asleep, I'm trying to get some time to myself. I'm doing some reading, some writing, whatever. Mornings, if there's a workout in there. There's something to where I know that I'm making myself mentally stronger so that I can be more mindful, so that at the end of the day or whenever it is that I need to be, I'm present. And again, not from a pulpit, dude. I'm talking like this is if you saw me, I would have that big sign in the back that you see in those buildings when you walk in, like, "Hey, excuse the mess. We're trying to make this better," kind of thing. That's what I should just make that shirt because that's what we're doing.
Oh, it's true. It's true. And I always say, like, you got to give yourself grace because we're all trying to learn. I was fortunate that I had a lot of experiences working with kids, but even knowing that, I still had and still do have a ton of learning to do. Like
Yeah,
the learning curve for fathers is through the roof. It is for mothers too. I often say somebody apparently tore out a bunch of pages in my like how to be a dad manual because the things that my wife and I have gone through have just been astronomical. And it's that way for most dads. You just try to figure out your best way, but you are right, you
yeah,
still got to take care of yourself too. And in order for you to be your best for your kids, you got to find ways to take care of yourself. And that is definitely a challenge. I had a good friend of mine on the show a few months ago, Phil Januszewski. For any listeners who want to go back and listen to that, he's a great dude, all about positivity. I mean, that is his thing. And he talks about scheduling your life so that
mm,
you are basically showing up to be the best person that you can be, and that
right.
absolutely makes sense. I love the conversation, man. Let's finish off with this. You're a girl dad through and through. You've learned a lot of lessons, probably many of them the hard way.
Yeah.
You just want to talk about, joys and challenges of being a girl dad?
Well, if we start with the challenges, we won't get to the joys. I think. Uh, Dude, the joys are so many, man. The problem is that you need to allow yourself to see them, and this is across the board. I think with kids, like, because they're the hardest job,
Mm,
like for real, right?
yep.
When I look at my girls and I see them like just do some random stuff, it sounds dumb, probably not the answer your listeners are looking for, but if I allow myself to slow down and just watch,
Yep.
it's crazy amazing who they are, what they are, and it's just kind of awe-inspiring. Like, there's these humans that somehow I've kept alive and are thrive. They're starting to thrive. They do good things, and um, you know, they go to school, but I'm probably get some smoke, but I don't care about the grades. My girls get good grades. I just don't. That's not what I focus on. I
Yep.
focus on, hey, have you been kind today? Like, have you helped someone today? Like, what did you hear today that didn't sound right? Like, those are the conversations we have, and we focus on the work. You're doing the work, then the grades will come.
Yep.
Fine. If you're half-assing it, then we'll see that. Like,
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
not too concerned about that. Um, but just with that, I mean, just school and just the people that they're becoming, it's just crazy to see. If you haven't, like, just have a conversation with your 5-year-old, but actually have it, right? Try not to be distracted. Just focus on what they're saying, and they'll blow your mind. Not because they say something grand, but just like you're 5. Like, how do you even have the vocabulary? What are you talking about? Or have them ask you questions. It's those are the for me, those are the little joys that I've really started to feel with my girls. Taking them out to a car ride and just having a conversation. We just recently, my two older ones and I just went to a concert, a 21 Pilots concert, and I just like
Cool.
watching them enjoy, and like it's crazy. So these little joys, they're individual for everybody. The struggles, brother, like the struggles, I feel like in full transparency, the struggles come from us.
Hmm.
It's kind of weird, but it took me a while to figure this out.
Yep.
Like, I've said this many times, that children are mirrors, and they will turn the mirror to you, and all of a sudden you'll see or hear something you don't like, but it's because of you,
Hmm.
right? And again, from the trench, not the pulpit. Like, I'm like, dude, there's times where I just need to legitimately step away because I'm just like, I gotta go. I
Yep.
gotta go to the room and like chill. And I start when I do that and I'm active in that thought process, I'm like, that has nothing to do with them. And I think those are the biggest struggles that I've really started to understand is that we all come from different backgrounds with different playbooks. And, in the military, we say you don't rise to the highest level of training, you fall to your lowest level of training. And so if that's all if you haven't worked and grown from when you became an adult, then you're gonna give that to your children. That's what's gonna come out.
Yep.
Those are the struggles you're gonna feel. But if you really start to look at them, like, I mean, seriously, how mad can you be at a 5-year old? I mean, really, like what can they possibly do compared to an adult
Yes.
that you should be mad about,
Right.
right? And yet, I'm constantly mad at a 5-year old, right? So that's what I'm getting at is like I've started to really learn that the struggles are sounds super like weird to say, but it's not. The struggles are within us. What are we struggling with?
Yep.
What do we see as disrespectful? What do we see um as triggering? I think that's the word that people
Yep.
like to use now, right? Like I
Yeah.
got triggered. Those are the struggles I've really learned, man. And the more and more I have the privilege of talking to dads, and actually we've had a lot of other guests this year. I've had women that talk about their fathers and kind of how they see fatherhood. I mean, the privilege I have to talk to you and to folks that come on my show have really allowed that whole thing has allowed me to slow down and think, slow down and try not to go off the handle over something, right? Um, Realize that a lot of my, going off the handle and anger comes from a fear of a danger to my daughter. And how do I translate that? And guys, like, what I'm talking about when you go off and it's something that is either happening or they want to happen or did happen, and you yell. If you really sit there, you're like thinking that's probably just a fear I have of something dangerous that my daughters would get into, right?
Yep.
And I can catch that about 5% of the time now, right?
Yeah.
The goal is to catch all of them,
Yep.
but I was able to catch almost none early on.
So
So
you have growth.
I think I'm going somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky to be able to talk to everybody and get those lessons from them. And I'm hoping that what I'm doing will resonate with someone else and they can catch that from someone else as well.
Yep.
And again, I'm not a gentle parent. I'm not like any of these fad things that we hear all the time. It's just, I'm just trying to build, what do they say? I'm trying to build the boat while it's on the water.
Right.
Like,
That's it. Yes. Yeah. We're trying to build the plane while it's in the air. You know,
that's right.
if I had like one thing that I would go back and like tell myself when I was a young dad, it's probably like just sit back and soak it in a little bit more. Not I
Yeah.
always felt like I tried to, but also really those moments, like you said, when one of your kids does something to maybe get under your skin, keep it in perspective. Like we
Yeah.
have a tendency to maybe overanalyze specific
Oh, yeah.
little details or little situations. In reality, it just sit back and think in the grand scheme of things, this is just them being humans and working themselves through the growing pains of being a human. And it's definitely it's a learning process, just like it is for dads. It's a learning process for kids as they try to work their way through navigating childhood. So
Yeah. I'll say this, and this is something crucial for me that I've learned along the way that I don't think I did very well. For those of you with either one child or your oldest child, when you think of your oldest child, they didn't sign up for it, but they're your teacher. You didn't know how to be a dad 2 minutes ago, and now you do because you spent 2 more minutes with your oldest child. And I say this to my oldest all the time, like, you and I have a different relationship than I have with your other two. And because of you, your two siblings will get a better product. And I'm sorry, right?
it's true though, man.
But that is. And
Hmm.
so what I'm getting at is you said it so beautifully. We're raising humans to help them be human. And we forget about that. And so to remember to give specifically the oldest child, all of your children, but your oldest child some grace and realize they're in this new job they didn't ask for. They're not getting paid and they're your instructor the whole way and they're ultimately getting the crap end of the deal.
Yeah. It's true.
right?
Yeah.
Just ensuring that that's something I've had to work on so much, man. Because you're right, we focus on some weird things that we think are really important, and you realize later on, you're like, that doesn't really make that big of a difference, like,
Yep. That's right.
right?
We get
And
lost in
yet,
the little details.
right, and because of your oldest, if you have more than one, because of your oldest, you'll realize with your others not to do that. But
Yep.
your oldest still got the raw end of that deal. So
That's true.
I just wanted to put that out as we were talking. Like, they need some grace as well. They are human. They're little humans that are trying to figure life out just like you are.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Oscar, I love the conversation, man. Let me give you a second to kind of plug all your stuff. If anybody wants to connect with you or maybe just check out your stuff, where do you want to send them?
Yeah, man. Thanks. I'm real easy, dude. Doddardpodcast.com. Doddard, it's essentially the word daughter with an ed at the end. We made it a verb because that's what we're trying to do here. Doddardpodcast.com. If you go there, the first thing you guys will see is a pop-up. I know it's annoying, but that's for our newsletter. We send a newsletter out every week with tidbits from our guests, with telling you what's coming up on the next episode. I have gotten great feedback that it's been really helpful. And so I've told myself that as long as we're providing value, we'll keep doing it. And if it's not providing value, I won't even send it to you. So I would ask that you guys go on there, sign up for the newsletter. And we got a lot of cool things coming for season 3. And they're all going to be on that newsletter alongside the website. If you want to find us on social media, primarily on Instagram at Daughter Podcast. And then mine is A Growing Girl Dad. That's A_ Growing Girl Dad on Instagram. You can see my shenanigans on there and my learning curve as I try to figure this thing out as we go.
Perfect. Well, man, I appreciate the conversation. And again, thank you to you and your family for the service and the sacrifice you're making. And also thank you for all the work you're trying to put out there to help dads be better dads.
Thanks, Kyle. I really appreciate you having me on. It was a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Thanks for sticking around. If you got any questions you want answered on the show, or you just want some feedback or want to share some ideas, shoot me an email, dadsallinpodcast@gmail.com, or send me a DM on any of the socials @rechargedfamily. Thanks for listening.